Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to be going over my build for the Diecast Mafia Wagon Build off. So for this I chose a Hotwheels Cruiser Bruiser, partially because it's the demolition derby car and I kind of like the idea of building a demolition derby car, as well as making a weaponless Gaslands car. So yeah, first thing I'm going to do is get rid of this horrible Carolina squat. I've noticed a lot of American cars, demolition derby cars, usually use this built this way. I'm not too sure why. In the UK the rules are different. In the UK the cars are raced before the demolition derby. So from what I understand, the American rules, they just build the cars to be crashed on the demolition derby. So they build them one way so they can take a beating more. Whereas in the UK, obviously if the car's going to be racing, it can't be set up to take a hit because it's going to mess with the performance and you want to win the races before winning the demolition derby at the end of the day, sort of thing. So initially I thought I could do this with a simple wheel swap, just a bigger set of wheels at the back, but off camera I was messing around and realised it wasn't going to work because of the way the casting's made, so I just completely cut the rear section up so I could put a set of wheels on a new axle there. So I took some larger wheels from my bits box and then used a square steering tube for an axle, as you can see here. Since I literally split the chassis plate in half, I went and used some U-shaped styrene here to kind of fix the hole that I'd cut out of the chassis plate, but also somewhere to mount the new axle on there. So I used plenty of super glue here just to strengthen up the bond because obviously I don't want this snapping. I also realised the roll cage was probably going to cause me problems when I got out and driver, so I just had to cut it. I also plan to do a more traditional demolition derby style roll cage for this anyway, so I decided to cut it out. Yeah, just using the sphere tool to grind out chunks of the car. I'm not too sure if I did enough for this. It was my first time doing this. I'd seen this technique done by bare metal diecast, and he'd done it to a car that looked like it'd been rolled. Obviously, never done this before. I wasn't too much how far to go with it, and I think I didn't do enough damage to the casting than I should have, but it still looked alright in the end. I also used this little tub here just to catch all the metal shavings, so it was easy to clean up later on. Next I decided to build the roll cage. Like I said, I was going to build a more traditional demolition derby roll cage, which is usually made out of like industrial beams, steel beams of sorts. The idea, I think, is just because it's just cheap and easy and strong to get a hold of. If you're going to build a proper roll cage like you'd see in a race car, it would take a lot more money and effort, and if you're going to just crash the car anyway, you don't really want to spend a lot of time and effort and money building it up. So for this I just used some square styrene rod. I also took some small styrene rod and just used it for some kind of window bars just to kind of protect the driver. I've noticed a lot of demolition derby cars have some kind of mesh or something to protect the driver's face on the front windshield. So I just did the same here. So I did some test fitting of the driver and realised the seat was a bit too big, so I needed to cut the lower section of the seat out so you could fit in. And then when I test fit again, I realised his arms were going to be too close to the steering wheel, so I needed to just remove the entire seat in the end. So he had plenty of reach distance to the steering wheel. And after that, I realised that I cut a section of the interior piece out because his arms wouldn't fit and hold the steering wheel with the side panel there. So I had to cut that out so I could fit his arm on. For the most curious, this is a driver from the North Star military figures implements of carriage sprue. So here's the finished casting, unpainted. As you can see, we fixed the Carolina squat. So it no longer does the Carolina squat, it's just got that nice aggressive angle to it. Still trying to think up of a paint scheme because I want to go with a Demolition Derby paint scheme, so I'm just trying to think of one for this point. So I start off by painting this vehicle a typical sedan station wagon brown, just because it's like a 70s station wagon, and for some reason a lot of 70s cars were painted brown, so I figured that would be kind of a type of colour to be. In the end I decided to do a multi-body panel colour scheme for this thing. Either the idea is it was pieced together from several cars, or it was just painted like that by someone. Because I've seen a lot of different paint jobs and couldn't decide, and just decided to go for this one at the end. So then I paint the base plate matte black. And then the engine silver. For the window bars and the roll bars, I first start by painting them a rust colour and then dry brushing on silver afterwards, just to give them that like rusty metal look. After that I paint the interior brown, just kind of match the outside of the car, just a typical old boring station wagon, that's the type of car that's used in a Demolition Derby. For the driver, I decided just to paint it white because it's a bit hard to see in there, and so if I paint him a nice bright colour, it'll be easy to see him. And then I just painted some details on like his mask and his harness and stuff with some black. So I picked up these acrylic marker pens ages ago, and I've been wanting to use them, and I figured they'd be useful for writing things onto castings. Unfortunately they're a bit too thick, and I need to get some ones with some thinner tips for later on. So I did write the numbers with them, but then the slogans and stuff I just wrote with I painted with a very fine paintbrush. So for the wheels, keeping with the theme, I decided to paint them multicolours. I only did two colours though, black and green, and blue and green. At this point I decided the underside looked a bit too clean, so I just decided to dry brush on some rust, just to kind of help sell the fact that this was a very old, beat up old wagon that was at the end of its life before it was turned into a Demolition Derby car. And again I just finished this off with a nice black wash, just to kind of highlight details here and there, and all the panel lines. And here we are with the finished build. Now I will admit it is a little jacked up to be a demolition derby car. I'm sure some kind of rules or someone who knows more about at least American demolition derby cars will go, you can't have a rear end that big, but then again this is just built for fun, isn't it? So yeah, I do actually like the idea of building a few more demolition derby cars, because I just like the idea of having a few cars for my Gaslands races that don't have any weapons, and just purely built to, you know, get in the melee and just ram everyone out the way. Like usual, it'll be a nice little slideshow of camera shots. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.